Hello everybody, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. How are you all doing? Hope you're having a good day today. Just a general chat today, a nice relaxing general chat. I see there's a lot of general consensus in the media that Harry and Meghan are going to divorce imminently. I'd be surprised if it was an imminent thing. They obviously have difficulties. And today I was sort of going to explore what it's like to be on the end of a pitchfork, a sort of public lynch mob type thing, which I don't think they have at all. I don't think they've really experienced it. So I'm not saying they are going to divorce. I felt for some time, as a lot of you know, they have not been together since about October last year. That's when I really started to... He's a bit like Patrick Jeffson, Princess Diana's old private secretary, said once. It's not that the press and the public know what's going on in the palace, but we all have antennas and we know when something's wrong. And I thought that was a very good way of describing it. And that's from someone who's worked from within the palace. And his job would have been to squash rumours. It sort of reminds me of the Sir Paul McCartney and Heather Mills marriage, which I watched with fascination because there was something I couldn't quite put my finger on. And I followed that story on the internet, just reading articles. I never commented on it. Or like this, there weren't YouTubers really, well, not that I was aware of, that were talking about that particular situation. There were forums back in those days and stuff like that, but I didn't really participate in any of them, not that I can remember. I just remember watching it and thinking something is terribly wrong. Heather seemed very overconfident, to say the least. That there was something wrong about the dynamic. And I could see straight away the marriage was not going to last. But I was very much, just on my own, just a bod, just watching it. And before they broke up, I remember really not liking Heather very much at all. And thinking, well, she seems a little full of herself, and I wonder if she's not very nice to people. And then it all came out after they'd split that people allegedly said she wasn't always that nice to work with and she was quite a prima donna and difficult. But, and I mean, I always knew he's a Beatle. He's a Beatle. That's a big thing. He has an enormous fan base. All of the Beatles do. In fact, any of those type of iconic celebrities do. Although she was well known in her own right before she married him, she was sort of well known in the UK, but once she married the Beatle, she became world famous. And I seem to recall that when they got married, the press all turned up at the church. And Paul said, well, it was supposed to be a secret where we were getting married. And Heather said something like, oh, we shouldn't have told Auntie Nellie. Shh, ha 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 ha. And I thought at the time, I bet it was Heather. Well, it might not have been. Allegedly, that's what I felt at the time. She was the one that made the call. And I did like her wedding dress. I thought it was fabulous. But I don't think I'm certain she herself realised that it was him. As far as public profiles go, it was always him. He was the biggie. But when she married him, she started to share that spotlight. And I think it did go to her head. And she began to feel, oh, I'm the one everybody's come to see. And then the divorce started to happen, and it was really nasty from a public PR point of view. He definitely won the war over that one by just not commenting, not saying anything. And she had a full-blown meltdown, really. She had a meltdown on ITV, and I had enormous sympathy for her because I could see how much it is for one human being to deal with. The level of hatred was it was extraordinary. It really was. It was something to see. And I remember her sitting on the sofa, I think it was This Morning or something, with that presenter Fiona, and she got her file out and she said, look what the press say about me, look what people say about me, how much more do you think I can take? And she started to cry. And she threw a glass of water over Fiona Shackleton, was it? The Paul McCartney's divorce lawyer. So she really lost her cool on more than one occasion. And I think if Harry and Meghan are going to divorce, I don't suppose Meghan realises how bad things can get. They might think things are bad now. They thought things were bad before they escaped the palace to find freedom. You know, they thought things were bad then, and my goodness, it's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse, and it can only get worse, quite frankly. Take it from me. Because when you have been on the end of a pitchfork in the media and public perception, and it's not just me, one or two people through this channel have reached out to me in private who've, and I'm not going to repeat anybody's personal stories, but there are one or two people who've been through similar things to me, and they've contacted me in private to say, you know, I feel like I'm losing my mind and stuff. And the thing is, the only way I can explain it to anyone who's never suffered it is, you know, when you make a comment on the internet and someone comes back at you with a really nasty reply, and they're not even having a go at you because you're probably using a username, so they don't know your real identity, and it's quite a shock, isn't it? And it's a bit of a sting. Magnify that a lot. And so when you read articles about yourself in the newspaper, even the smallest inaccuracy to the person themselves is magnified. I mean, it's, looking back on it, I've read some of the old articles about me and Graham, and they're nothing. But at the time, if they got even the slightest thing wrong, we were like, the press are full of lies, because you're in the heat of the situation, you're in the heat of the moment at the time. And I could see Heather was like that. Heather wanted them to correct every little thing. Graham and I were like that. We wanted an apology for every little thing. At the actual moment, about a week after the publication, we'd get over it, unlike Meghan and Harry, who, you know, just won't let anything drop. And eventually it becomes less and less and less, and you just brush it off. They don't seem to have that ability to just brush it off. And someone actually asked Paul McCartney, how do you cope with the media? And he said, it's simple, I don't read it. And I can actually well believe him. I think Meghan and Harry read everything, watch everything, listen to everything. I think they're obsessed. So it will be interesting to see how she copes should such an eventuality as a divorce crop up, because she may think she's big and tough and hard, but oh boy, it's going to be 1,000 times worse than it was for Heather Mills, 1,000 times worse, because Prince Harry is a member of the Windsors, which is even worse than, you know, beating up a Windsor, or you're going to have a lynch mob after you. Beating up a Beatle, you're going to have a lynch mob after you. So I don't think she realises, and I mean, that will be a dawning realisation of horror, absolute horror, if she hasn't already reached that stage yet, and I don't suppose she has. I expect by now she has begun to realise that the royal family are far more important and globally influential, and just enormous in comparison to Hollywood. Whereas I think when she married him at the beginning, she thought in her mind Hollywood is bigger and the royal family is, it's just a, it's just a stupid little European little royal family like the Princess Diaries. Because I haven't actually I think I have watched the Princess Diaries, but it was years ago. Wasn't it some sort of fictitious European kingdom that they invented specially for the story. I think Julie Andrews was the queen or something like that. And I think she thought it was like that. I think she thought, you know, these dusty, fusty old Windsors in their Windsor Castle, they're on the verge of extinction, whereas I'm the new fresh blood. I think that's how she saw it. That I dare say over the last few years she has begun to realise. I mean, obviously, doing Oprah, she thought, oh, I'm going to do Oprah. I don't care. The Cut, I don't care. I'm fighting back. Helping with Finding Freedom, things like that. Dig after dig after dig at them, and I do feel the fact she didn't attend the Gracie Awards, and I'm not buying that. She had a previous engagement. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying it that she was in fear for security. No, no, no. They can put out as much spin as they like. She couldn't face it, because she could have done a Zoom, couldn't she? And I'm not of the opinion, I know a lot of you are, that it had anything to do. Was it Christine Applegate, one of the stars of Married with Children? I'm not entirely going along with that, because Meghan's got more front than Beachy Head, I think, as we've all seen. And for anyone who doesn't know, Beachy Head is a massive cliff. I think there's 7 of them. I never faked my death jumping off Beachy Head, by the way, in case anybody's wondering. And there never was an air sea rescue. I wrote to the rescue people, and they said no, we never did an air sea rescue. And on the morning that they claimed that happened, Graham and I actually went to Beachy Head to look, and there was no air sea rescue going on, and there were clear blue skies. It was a lovely day. I distinctly remember. Anyway, that's beside the point. But I just sort of mentioned that bit. It's just some liar made that shit up and told the Daily Mail, and they believed them. Anyway, so where was I? Yes, Meghan and the Gracie Awards. She couldn't face it. That's the conclusion I've come to. She's begun to realise, because her type of personality, she wants to be the prom queen with every adoration. And without the adoration there's not much point in going, is there? In fact, far from it. It could make things even worse. I'm not even sure PR people would have advised her. I think she might have formed that conclusion all by herself. And I dare say Harry flatly refused to go at all. But what I don't think she realises yet is that if there is a divorce on the cards or a separation, that if the children, okay, I know a lot of you out there are going to say there are no children, we'll cross that bridge later, for legal reasons. And actually, personally, I mean, I find all that really super weird. If it turns out to be true, I will be the first one there with a bugle going, you know, oh my goodness. But let's just go along. There's 2 children. If she were to try using them as leverage, oh boy. If she does watch these videos, I would strongly recommend, Meghan, don't come across as a bitch in PR. If you do split up with Harry and divorce, if you two do divorce, don't do it. Don't do it. Because short of moving to Mars or having plastic surgeries and going to ground, you have no idea. It will be the pitchfork of all pitchforks. So be very careful. Or Meghan's PR people, if they watch this, be very, very careful not to come across in that manner. I see Paul Burrell, Diana's butler, has said that he's always believed that if Harry felt the marriage was very bad, which he thinks he does, that he would stick it out for the sake of the children. Again, don't shoot me down about there's no children, all right? That's another conversation in another video. But yes, I mean, if there were children adopted, surrogate, actually Harry's children, whatever, if there are no children, then that's super weird. I tell you what, you've been knock me down with a feather, really. If there's literally absolutely no children, you really will have to knock me down with a feather. So I think that's the thing. Meghan is definitely her own worst enemy. I don't think she can see the dangers. She clearly couldn't see the dangers before she did Oprah. And I knew that I thought Finding Freedom would be the biggest mistake of her life, and then she did Oprah, and I thought, well, I think that's the biggest mistake of her life. A lot of people might say, that the Oprah interview was the beginning of her downfall. I would disagree, actually. I think the beginning of her downfall began the day she married Harry. I just saw the look on her face after the wedding when they were in the carriage. That just blew her mind. She was thinking, I've got it. I can bolsh my way around. I can kick all these people into touch. No one's ever going to question me. I'm equal to Catherine. I'm Diana. And I could see that she's probably not been very nice to a lot of people in order to climb the ladder. And that wedding day, she didn't even realise that that was her biggest, that was where the downfall actually began. And the history books, I think, you'll see, well, if we're all still alive, in years to come, I don't know how many years, but things unfold, historians start looking at things, and I wouldn't mind betting that a lot of people will draw the conclusion that that was the day that her downfall began, and the end of a reign of terror where she would just get away with things, because she wasn't that famous before. You know, she's well known, part on a cable show, she had her own fan base, she could get away with lying and twisting and changing facts and doing stuff. No one was ever going to scrutinise it. Marry a Windsor, marry a Beatle, marry a Presley, you know, that kind of fame with their own fan base, especially a Windsor, and you're going to start coming under scrutiny. So a person who has led their life by having a loose relationship with the truth, shall we say, they're going to come unstuck pretty quickly. And I mean, a lot of us were like, watching the whole situation, and that's where it really began. And there were just a few of us originally. I mean, watching people like Wally, Taz and Murky, the community was a lot smaller then. And it has grown substantially, and more people are looking at them and thinking something is not right here. Ever decreasing circles. Anyway, it's just a Sunday. Is it Sunday? Yes, it is Sunday today. Sunday afternoon. Nice chat in the garden. I've actually been looking, and I would highly recommend, because I also see that apparently, allegedly, William and Harry met with Paul Burrell back in 2017 because they wanted to ask him things about their mum, because he was worked in close proximity to her. And as I've told you many times before, I've got Paul Burrell's book. To my shame, I didn't buy it. Graham got it out of the bins when he was doing the bin lorries, and he found it, and he said, he thought, oh, my missus likes Princess Diana and the royal family, I'll give her that. And I didn't read it for about 10 years. I was too busy lurching from one disaster to the other, and then I think it was in the lockdown, I thought, I'll read it, and it's a bloody good read. It is a page turner. I couldn't put it down, and I read it in 3 days. Okay, I'm a slow reader. But I looked, and there's actually 396 pages. And I've got Harry's Where book here. And here's something like 403, 407. So, and there's less words on each page of Harry's than Paul's. So Paul's is actually a longer book and a damn sight better read. If you want a really good read. I know a lot of people don't approve of Paul. I don't really understand why. He doesn't say a bad word about the royal family. And it's mostly, the book is about him and his life in service and what he did. And I love it. I thoroughly enjoyed reading it. And it's the type of book I might read it again, actually. So, just thought I'd put in a word for Paul, because I know he gets a bad rap from some people, and they say things like, there's another guy who worked in the royals, and he always says, oh, he was a traitor, but I mean, he's on telly saying stuff about the royal family. So I'm like, well, you're talking about the royal family, lots of other people talk about them, lots of other people have written books. What's the difference between you and Paul? I don't understand. And it's not like Paul has divulged any particular secrets of Diana's or Charles, or nothing people don't know or haven't figured out for themselves now. So, yeah, it's a good read. Anyway, I hope you're all having a wonderful Sunday afternoon, and as always, I look forward to hearing your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening.